The discovery of a mass grave in Sri Lanka has once again drawn international attention to the island nation's bloody civil war, which raged for more than a quarter of a century. At the heart of this grim revelation are haunting artifacts, a baby bottle, fragments of children's clothing, and the skeletal remains of at least 141 individuals, a chilling reminder of the human cost of one of South Asia's longest and most brutal conflicts. The grave, unearthed in the northern town of Mannar, lies in a region that witnessed some of the fiercest fighting between Sri Lankan government forces and the separatist Tamil Tigers (LTTE). For decades, families in the area have demanded answers about their missing loved ones, many of whom disappeared during the height of the war. Now, forensic excavations are piecing together a tragic puzzle that may shed light on the scale of atrocities committed and the fate of the disappeared. The mass grave came to light when construction workers stumbled upon human remains while digging at a site near a former cooperative store. Alarmed by the discovery, authorities brought in forensic experts and archaeologists to carry out systematic excavations. What began as a handful of bones quickly grew into a sprawling grave site. Over the following months, skeleton after skeleton was carefully unearthed, each one telling a silent story of violence, abandonment, and loss. Investigators reported that among the remains were tiny bones belonging to children and even infants. A rusted baby bottle, alongside scraps of children's clothing, sent waves of shock and grief through the community. The presence of these items suggested that the victims were not only combatants but also civilians, entire families who may have perished together. Sri Lanka's civil war lasted from 1983 to 2009, pitting the Sinhalese-dominated government against the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam (LTTE), who fought for an independent Tamil homeland in the north and east of the island. The conflict claimed the lives of an estimated 100,000 people, with countless others reported missing. The town of Mannar, located on the northwest coast, was a crucial strategic point during the war. It changed hands multiple times between government troops and the Tigers, and civilians were often caught in the crossfire. Human rights organizations have long alleged that both sides committed abuses, including extrajudicial killings, forced disappearances, and mass executions. The newly uncovered grave is one of the largest found in post-war Sri Lanka and could provide vital evidence of such abuses. Forensic experts have faced significant challenges in analyzing the remains. Many of the skeletons are intertwined, suggesting that the bodies were dumped together without ceremony or respect. Initial carbon dating placed the bones within the war years, although further testing is required for precise dating. The team has carefully catalogued each skeleton, noting age, sex, and any signs of trauma. Preliminary reports indicate that some victims bore evidence of violent deaths, including gunshot wounds and blunt force trauma. The discovery of women and children among the remains further complicates the narrative, challenging official accounts that often framed wartime casualties as primarily combatant deaths. DNA testing has been proposed to help identify individuals and potentially reunite remains with surviving family members. However, this process is costly, time-consuming, and fraught with political sensitivities. Families of the disappeared are pressing for rapid progress, fearing that delays will once again deny them closure. The discovery has reignited debates in Sri Lanka about accountability, justice, and reconciliation. Successive governments have promised to investigate wartime abuses, but progress has been slow and often obstructed by political interests. Many Tamils feel marginalized and fear that their suffering has been ignored in the pursuit of post-war stability and economic development. Civil society groups and international human rights organizations have called for an independent inquiry into the Mannar grave. They argue that domestic investigations are unlikely to deliver justice, given the state's involvement in the war and the culture of impunity that has long prevailed. The Sri Lankan government, meanwhile, has struck a cautious tone, pledging to continue forensic work while discouraging speculation about culpability. Officials have urged patience, emphasizing that scientific analysis must precede political judgments. Yet critics accuse the government of stonewalling and attempting to downplay evidence of atrocities. For the families of the disappeared, the discovery has reopened old wounds. Many have spent decades searching for answers, attending protests, and submitting petitions to authorities. The sight of tiny children's shoes and a baby bottle in the grave was particularly devastating, as it shattered lingering hopes that their loved ones might still be alive. One mother, who lost her husband and 2 children during the war, told reporters that the grave was both heartbreaking and validating. For years they told us we were imagining things, that our families were alive somewhere. Now we see the truth with our own eyes. They were killed and buried like this, without dignity. Another local resident expressed fear that the findings would be suppressed or manipulated. "We have seen graves before, but nothing changes. Will this time be different? Or will they bury the truth along with our people?" The Mannar grave has drawn international attention at a time when Sri Lanka is struggling to rebuild its reputation after years of human rights scrutiny. The United Nations has repeatedly urged the country to establish credible accountability mechanisms, warning that failure to do so undermines reconciliation and fuels divisions. International forensic experts have offered assistance in analyzing the grave, but their involvement depends on the government's willingness to permit external oversight. Some diplomats argue that transparency would enhance Sri Lanka's credibility, while hardliners within the country see foreign involvement as an infringement on sovereignty. The United States, European Union, and several human rights organizations have already expressed concern, urging Colombo to handle the matter with sensitivity and openness. They warn that ignoring the evidence or attempting to cover it up could reignite tensions in the north, where many Tamils continue to feel alienated from the central government. The Mannar discovery is not the first of its kind in Sri Lanka. Over the past 3 decades, multiple mass graves have been uncovered across the country, from Chemini and Mattal to more recent sites in the north and east. Each discovery has followed a familiar pattern: initial shock, promises of investigation, limited forensic work, and eventual silence. Activists fear that Mannar could suffer the same fate unless strong international pressure ensures accountability. "We cannot let this be another forgotten grave," said a representative of the families of the disappeared. "Every bone here tells a story of injustice. Every child's shirt is evidence of a crime. If we fail to act, we betray them again." The future of the Mannar grave investigation remains uncertain. Forensic work continues, but progress is slow due to limited resources and political constraints. Families demand faster DNA testing, the release of forensic reports, and international oversight. The government insists on patience and restraint, but critics argue that time is being used as a tool to erode momentum. Beyond the technical process of excavation and identification lies a deeper question: will Sri Lanka confront its past or continue to bury it? True reconciliation requires more than roads and infrastructure. It demands acknowledgement of suffering, accountability for abuses, and justice for the dead. The baby bottle and children's clothes found in the grave are more than artifacts, they are symbols of innocence lost and lives cut short. They remind Sri Lanka, and the world, that behind the statistics of war lie human beings, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, and babies who deserved dignity and peace. The Mannar mass grave has become a haunting mirror of Sri Lanka's troubled history. It embodies the silence of the disappeared, the anguish of families, and the unfinished business of justice. Whether this discovery will mark a turning point or become another footnote in a long list of unaddressed atrocities remains to be seen. For now, the soil of Mannar continues to yield its secrets, bones and artifacts that refuse to stay buried. They demand answers, accountability, and remembrance. And until those demands are met, the ghosts of Sri Lanka's war will not rest.